Good morning, folks. Welcome to Ben in 10 at 10 every Monday, Wednesday and Friday here on Unlocked. Today I'm going to talk about COVID-19 and the government's response to it. I fear the Prime Minister is about to make a serious mistake, and which could land the UK in decades of problems. In order to explain why I fear this, I have to go back to March last year and just touch briefly on all the initial mistakes made by the Prime Minister. You will recall that there were a litany of decisions made that subsequently reversed. The most important, or the worst rather, of those decisions was to release the elderly from hospitals into care homes. And with that came a very high death toll in the United Kingdom. A death toll that has since forced the Prime Minister into complete timidity in dealing with this virus. It is at the root cause, I fear, of the mistake he's about to make. There are two other things the government has done with great effectiveness. One which I think they're going to come to regret, and the other which was spectacularly brilliant for the United Kingdom. Let's just take the second one first. It's the vaccination programme. He did brilliantly to tie up with Oxford University and AstraZeneca to promote that research, to expedite it through the regulatory authorities, and then to make sure that we had adequate vaccines to vaccinate the population. And by the time of this production, I believe that everyone pretty much over the age of 70 has now been vaccinated at least once. That puts the UK in a really strong position, a position which we should be now capitalising on for the benefit of the UK and its people. The other thing the government's done very effectively, but I think they're going to now start regretting, is the exceptionally powerful messaging that they used to convince people that lockdown was the right strategy. I'm not going to debate whether or not lockdown was right, but that powerful messaging and the financial incentives that went with it, like furlough, the bounce back, the coronavirus bounce back loans and all of that, that strong messaging, coupled with the economic incentive to stay at home, has now convinced the population that actually lockdowns are the way forward. And they're not. And the Prime Minister mustn't take any lead from the polls. The polls are bound to reflect that lockdown is popular. Why wouldn't it be if you can stay at home, be paid pretty much close to what you were getting anyway, and not have to take the risk and hassle of going to work? But down that cul-de-sac lies real problems for the United Kingdom. What you have to remember is that there can be no public sector without the private sector. It is the earnings the private sector makes and the taxes which we pay that supports the government. If the private sector dies, the public sector dies. And so far, it's been the government that's been printing money. The government that's been supporting the entire British economy, because the private sector, to a very significant extent, has been shut down. This is unsustainable. Last year alone, the government borrowed 500 billion or so. It's going to borrow another 500 billion this year. That's £1 trillion in borrowings. For every pound that it is spending as a result of the coronavirus lockdowns, there's a pound being not earned in the private sector. It's the inverse of where we should be going. The private sector has taken one hell of a hit in the last 12 months. Some businesses haven't opened at all. Others have been affected even more badly because they've been locked down, opened up, locked down, opened up. This can't go on. The Prime Minister must now have the courage, having got the vaccine, to open up the United Kingdom, to open up our businesses. And remember that 80% of our GDP turns on services. Yes, financial services is an important component of that, and the financial services industry has been able to trade. But the other services, the ones on which our economy is so dependent, hospitality, retail, leisure, which depend on people coming into the country, tourism, foreign cash receipts, all of that's been knocked for six. But if the government has the courage to open up, if it has the courage that the vaccine should afford it, we should be able to lead the world out of this pandemic. And that would be terrific, wouldn't it, folks? It would be utterly terrific if the United Kingdom could actually lead the way out. We're miles ahead of the EU. We're ahead of the US on the vaccination programme. And let's make an economic advantage out of it. Let's go for it. Let's open up the UK. Let our businesses trade again. There may be reinfections, but at some point you've got to learn to live with the virus. And what better time than when we vaccinated the population? What better time to open up the economy? If we're not prepared to open up now, we're never going to be prepared to open up. We've got to get on with our lives.